Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome back to this podcast. And I am your host, Keisha, aka the Divine's Finest. And today we're going to talk about a deep topic. And, I've definitely done some episodes surrounding this topic before. But I know that this topic will definitely resonate with so many of you. Which is, that wasn't love, it was a trauma response I got addicted to. If you've ever felt like you were in love with somebody you knew that wasn't good for you, if you've ever felt drawn to somebody who made you feel anxious, or if you've stayed in a situation that kept hurting you, this episode is definitely for you. And by the way, before I forget, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And also make sure you check out my free 7-day secure self-journal. And also be sure to check out my brand new 28-day decentering men detox journal. You guys, it is absolutely amazing. And I really hope you guys do check it out as well, okay? So with that being said, getting right into it, the first thing we're going to talk about is understanding what love really is, okay? Because a lot of us tend to get mistaken about what love really should look like, and it's not to point the finger at you guys, because, we can't help, what we're so used to seeing, especially growing up. We're going to think it's love when it's really not, okay? But when we think about love, we often imagine safety, warmth, acceptance, and support, right? True love actually feels peaceful, stable, and secure. But for many of us, what we've called love was actually chaos disguised as passion. We mistake intensity for intimacy. We think about them constantly. We feel butterflies. Those butterflies are often actually anxiety, you guys, believe it or not, okay? There's a big difference. It's just that a lot of times we don't pay attention to it, okay? Real love doesn't keep you up at night questioning your worth. Real love doesn't have you obsessively checking your phone or analyzing everything that they said. And I am definitely guilty of that. As you guys all know, I've mentioned it in quite a few of my previous podcast episodes. So we're going to break it down. Many of us grew up in environments, which I just said this, right? Where love felt oftentimes inconsistent or it felt unsafe. Maybe you had to earn love from your parents, or maybe it was mixed with fear, unpredictability, or emotional distance. And as adults, our nervous system craves what feels familiar, not necessarily what is healthy, okay? So when somebody is hot and cold, for example, or when they just give you just enough crumbs to keep you hooked, aka my favorite phrase is what I like to use, breadcrumb kings or queens, because there's breadcrumb queens out there, okay? All right. Your brain releases dopamine. The reward chemical is another name for it. This unpredictability is the same mechanism using in gambling addiction. You keep hoping for the win, right? So when you say, I can't let them go, it's not because we're deeply in love. It's actually because our nervous system is addicted to the emotional roller coaster. So I'm going to share with you guys a personal story, and I've shared quite a few, right, previously in other podcast episodes. And honestly, this is like the best example I can give, because it was one of the longest dynamics I used to be myself involved with. But this particular person, which I mentioned him before, but seriously, you guys, I really thought that I really loved this person. I really did. Okay. I literally felt like I couldn't breathe without this person, that I couldn't live without them. I would get anxious waiting on them to text me back, for example, when we were in conversations with one another. I would analyze if they were actually pulling away from me. feeling euphoric whenever they did give me attention, all that stuff, right? But of course, it's like I would get that attention temporarily, right? For maybe a day, to be honest with you guys, for maybe a day. But then we would go months without talking. It's the craziest situation, right? And I'm sure probably a lot of you guys can relate to that, right? But here's the thing, that was not love. That was actually my abandonment wound, my anxious attachment, and my childhood conditioning screaming for validation. I realized that I wasn't in love with them. I was actually addicted to the high of being chosen and the low of being ignored. It was like a drug. And once I saw it for what it really was, I had to grieve not only the person, but the fantasy of them, the potential of what they could be, not what they were or how they are now, okay? The fantasy that if I just did enough, they would finally give me what I craved for. So, as you guys know, and I talk about this in my my 28-day Decentering Men journal as well, about the exact routine that I actually did in order to start healing and to get to where I am today. Thank God. Okay. And one of the things that I did, or that started happening when I realized that it wasn't love, was my awareness. I started recognizing my patterns, and not being shameful about them. Okay. And I realized that I needed to take my power back. Another thing that I did was that I had to grieve the fantasy of who I wanted him to be, and get, and to actually realize who he really was, which was that he's just inconsistent. He's emotionally immature. He's just not ready for, I'm sorry guys, excuse me. That he was not ready for a, okay, I didn't expect that. It must be not me wanting me to talk or something, but anyway, I'm so sorry, you guys. So, that was one of the things I had to do. I had to grieve that fantasy of who I wanted him to be, and accepting who he already was. And then over time, I was just like, okay, I just slowly my mind just started adjusting to it, right? And then, of course, I started with these mantras, which is my ultimate favorite one I like to use, and I put this in my journal too, which is, and I've done I actually did a short, which is called He's No Longer Here, I'm With Me Now. And I basically placed my hand over my heart every single time when I thought of him. And then over time, I just slowly started thinking about him less. And that's actually how I started emotionally detaching as well, on top of working on my anxious attachment style. And I actually found some really great grounding exercises, and grounding exercises can definitely help you too, which is what I started doing as well. Okay. And more importantly, you guys, I actually, so, those couple of things I did put in the journal that you guys can do. I tell you step by step how to do that. Okay. So that way you can start healing for yourself. And then, of course, lastly, one of the last things I did really was, I started setting new boundaries. So, for example, I knew that I didn't want to deal with people who just wouldn't contact me. If it's been more than 3 days, I'm not going to talk to you. I don't care how long I've known you. If you're not consistent with me, I don't want anything to do with you. That was one of my non-negotiables. I'm in a non-negotiable list now that I think about it, which is like a boundaries list, right? So, I no longer associate with people who do 50-50. Yep. I said to you guys, I don't do 50-50 stuff anymore. It's either that the guy, pays for everything, or I don't really want anything to do with them. Okay. Those are just a couple things, but just having really good non-negotiables is definitely a good habit to start having. Okay. So those are just a few things that I did. I kind of did get involved with I also did a couple other things. Like I bought a couple books, and started reading them as well, which definitely helped me shift as well. Okay. But, so now we're going to go ahead and start talking quickly about the new definition of love. So I want you to imagine that love actually feels calm. Imagine knowing that you don't have to perform or prove yourself. Imagine being with somebody who shows up consistently, who communicates clearly, who makes you feel safe instead of anxious. That's what love is, you guys. The rest, it's a trauma bond you mistook for a soulmate connection, okay? So we're going to leave this. I'm going to leave you guys with an affirmation today, which is I release the stories and patterns that kept me chasing crumbs. I am worthy of love that feels safe, steady, and tuned. And, some of you guys, it might be helpful to start actually affirming this to yourself, like every day, and just watch and see what happens, okay? So, I know this was kind of a quick one, but I needed to get this message out there to you guys. But thank you guys so much for spending time with me. I hope this episode resonated with you. Share it with a friend or post it on your stories and tag me in it if you can. I love to see who's tuning in. And remember, healing is not linear, and you're exactly where you need to be. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next episode.